All right, so I wanted to talk about an incredible movie that I got to see last night, and I'm just doing a handheld review right now on the phone without any fancy setup at all, because I felt like I just needed to talk about this movie as raw as possible. Well, I'm sure all of you have heard about it, at least to some degree, that there's this crazy movie called Bramayugam by Mammootty out there. It looks crazy, it looks different. Now, going in, I knew it's going to be a dark movie. I think it's absolutely worth watching it. However, warning, it is dark, it is eerie. It can be violent. There is definitely horror elements in there, and it's going to leave you very, very disturbed throughout. But it's also going to leave you impressed with the direction. This is a director I need to watch out for, Rahul Sadasivan. He's done another movie that is one of my favorite. I've reviewed it here as well. So no surprise, and he's written the story as well, and I'm in love with the story. I think the story is actually incredible. It has enough depth in it. There's quite a few things that happen towards the end that'll make you surprised. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I would say find this movie in your nearest theater, but please do not take your kids to the movies. I was surprised that there were people brought kids to this movie. I don't know how they got in, but this is not a movie for kids. This is going to make adults feel incredibly unsettled. I will say it is slow, so it's not something that don't walk in expecting an entertainer in that way, but I will say this movie really does a lot for Malayalam cinema. So it's already exploring such high level themes, and I think Malayalam movies are the best in India. And this movie, however, I would say if India does not pick this movie to be its Oscar nomination, I don't know what else would be, because I wouldn't be surprised if I see a lot of reviewers talking about this movie. This movie is dark. I'd even describe it as dark arts, right? This movie is all about the performances as much as the visuals and the visual storytelling. It is completely about facial expressions, the terror, the horror, the evil, everything being communicated by eerie dialogues and an incredible atmosphere that is unforgettable. It just sucks you in. I felt like every minute I was in this crazy world that this writer and director has brought up, and Mammootty has just taken it to the next level. The man is aging like fine wine. Some of the roles that he's been playing right now is so compelling, and I'm absolutely impressed and floored with his role and performance. I would liken it to Joker, right, of Batman, and that's the level of performance that Mammootty has brought in. It's going to be something unforgettable. The movie is meant to haunt you while you're watching it, and well before it, and rather well after it as well. I'm still thinking about certain scenes, and I love again the performances even by Arjun. He's starting to really be noticed, and in this movie he really brings it. I was impressed with his acting. All the other movies I felt like I didn't have much to say about his acting. He was fine for the role. Maybe he was even being typecasted to a certain extent, but here he breaks every mold. And again, hats off to the director for bringing out elements in each actor that we've not seen in the past. I would even say Siddharth. I think I've seen him in other movies here and there. He looks familiar, but the haunting expression that he has from scene one, his eyes, his expression, he is on the same level. All three of them, that's Arjun, Siddharth, Mammootty, these are the standout actors that's primarily going to take up the screen space. And then you've got the mansion, right? The haunted mansion, the palace. I'm saying every frame here was incredibly put together. Also, hats off to the music, right? Perfection to the core. It gives you the chills. It was apt for every single scene. The music, direction, everything worked so well for this movie. I was really impressed with the depth of analysis, right? There was concepts about power and how power corrupts. Kind of reminded me of a lot of themes from Lord of the Rings. I don't know if that was intentional or not. For those of you who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. When one of the characters sees, let's say, a group of people towards the very end of the movie, it's a commentary on again, the age of madness, the age of corruption and power, when we as humans dehumanize other people, be it because of caste and anything else, because they're a different race. When we dehumanize someone else, that is when we become non-humans ourselves, right? So it's just the commentary on power and how we use power and wield power, how power can corrupt very slowly. And one image of the slow corruption of power, I loved how the director used the image of water just dripping down and down, and you can see this water level rising throughout that ancient palace. And how that's a sign of, water is good, it's life, but it can also be threatening at a certain level, right? It can be flooding, it can be dangerous, it can be chaotic. That is used as somewhat of an analogy of how power can corrupt, but sometimes very slowly, sometimes very unknowingly, and before you know it, it's too late. So hats off to this movie. I think this movie will not just be a cult hit, it'll be something that will be studied in film schools, talked about for many, many years, and I think this movie will get a lot of international recognition. So even more excited to see other projects from the director here, who is a brilliant writer, has a brilliant vision, and has a capability to make world-class horror and thriller movies that has a psychological element to it. It's not just horror for the sake of horror. And there's scenes here, like I said, I don't think has ever been seen. Let's say we've seen monsters in Indian movies before, and none of them have really been visually compelling, right? I think we can all admit that. But in this movie, let's just say something that you see and visualize at one or a couple of scenes is visually stunning, and I'm calling it world class. So thoroughly impressed by the movie. It is certainly not for everyone. Don't take your kids to the movie, or anyone else who probably wouldn't like horror and want a lighter movie. This is not it. There's the Barbie version of this movie. They're calling this Oppenheimer. We have the lighthearted, great one, very entertaining one if you want to go for that. But do try to catch this in the theaters.